Cinematic signature sounds are beasts in themselves. They create a connection between the music, the sound effects and the visuals. They give life to the characters and bring depth and emotion to the story.
You could even argue that these sounds say more than 1,000 words.
In this video we're gonna take a look at how we can create a soft signature sound that works in the style of the Jurassic World Dominion trailer. We're gonna use an organic source recording recorded just with a simple Zoom recorder. We're gonna edit it, layer it, and process it to get the final result. Organic source recordings are a great way to create sound design because there is something that you can react to. If you start up your favorite DAW with your favorite soft synth and just a blank sheet in front of you, then it's totally up to you to have that initial spark of imagination to start the creative process. But if you have a bunch of recordings that you were inspired by when you recorded them, and you have a vision of your final sound, those two together always get my creative juices just flowing, and I just immediately get into a process of creating and sculpting my sounds. Before we dive into the process of creating this signature sound, I would like to give you something. Whoosh hits are the most common used cinematic sound effects that we have today. They have the effect of pulling in the listener, and they work so well as edit points. But they are really hard to create. And that's why I have created this cheat sheet for you. In the cheat sheet you get an overview of the whoosh, the body and the tail of the sound, and you also get an overview of the high, the mid and the low layers of the sound. This is a really great asset for you to have when you create your own sound effects and when you start to layer up different sound from different sound effects libraries in your sessions. So go ahead, download the free cheat sheet in the description, and let's get back to the video. So the source recording for this soft signature sound is just a squeaky door. I'm always on the hunt for new source recordings, so I'm usually just bring my Zoom with me and just try to capture as much cool stuff and interesting stuff that I can. And I found this really cool cellar door that had this squeaky character, and like it has a tone in it. So let's take a listen to one of the recordings that I did. So it's kind of piercing, kind of harsh, but it has that tone in it that I really want to focus in on. So I did a little bit of editing to it and removed the beginning, and it sounds like this. So just that tonal pitch of it, and it has that squeakiness and that character to it that I really like. So I knew that I wanted to have the sound in D. So I brought up just a tuner and checked it. And it just moves around there, A and G, so I just wanted to just get in the ballpark of where I wanted it to be in the end, so I pitched it down a bit. And it has a really cool vibe to it. I really like it. So I wanted to just tame the dynamic range of it a little bit, so I just used Pro C, great compressor. Once again, get it into the ballpark of where I wanted it to be. And then I wanted to tame those highs a little bit, so I just brought up Volcano 3 for that. And just to get a vibe of where I can land, I just added a reverb. It's just a black hole, and now it sounds like this. And that's the way I want to go. It has that really animal vibe to it, but it has the tonal pitchiness that really creates the tension. And I really think that is a really great starting point for this sound. So from here on, we can just start layering it and start to process it a little bit more to just reach the final result. So my idea for layering this sound was to use that sound that we just created as my main layer, and then create duplicates of that sound and repitch and resculpt and reprocess those duplicates to create new layers to support that main layer. So let's dive in and see how I did it. So here is that main layer. The only thing that I did to this was just adjust the pitch and format a tiny bit with Little Alter Boy, just to really hone in on that D tonality that I wanted for it. So it sounds like this. Nothing new under the sun, it's just the same sound. The next thing that I wanted for this was just add a bit more character, some movement or some more interesting vibe into it. So I duplicated the sound, so I have it here. Just a clean duplicate, nothing special. And I started out with just pitching it up 12 semitones, just a full octave up, and it sounded like this. And something there that I really like, this makes it too short, and it's a tiny too piercing and aggressive with that. So I duplicated that one more time, and I just started to pitch it down from there and started to edit it a little bit, added the fade in the end here, and in the fade in the beginning, and just together with the main layer, I just reduced the tonality until I got the relationship between the first tonality from the main layer and from this character layer, and just something that I felt worked together. So the character layer ended up sounding like this. And together with the main layer, and it works really great in my opinion. It creates that bit more character, a bit more of everything into it, and just some spice on top of it. But what I felt was missing now was some body to the sound, some lows and some mids to it. So once again, I just took that original sound and duplicated that. So I have it over here. Just a clean copy. Nothing special. And what I did was I pitched it down 2 octaves and it sounded like this. And it's a bit of a mess, but in the middle here, it has a more of a steady tonality and it has that pitch down effect here. That's really cool. So this is like the same effect, same technique as I used when we edited the first original source recording. It's just this thing there in the middle that I wanted. So I duplicated this again and started to edit it a bit and fade it a bit, and it ended up like this. And I felt that could work together with these layers. But I wanted it 1 octave down, so then I brought in Little Alter Boy again and pitched it down 12 semitones. And the reason that I used this is just so I don't alter the length of the sound when I have edited it now. So now it sounds like this. And a really, really cool vibe to it. I really like it. I want a little bit more bass out of it. So I resampled this sound into a new track. So it sounded like this. And then I just added that Little Alt Boy one more time, so 1 more octave down. And that creates that bass layer. So together they all sound like this. And at this stage I'm really, really happy with the sound, so now it's just to mix it a little bit and call it a day. So for mixing the sound, I actually didn't do that much. I used Shep's parallel particles on all layers. On the main and the character layer, I used it to bring out some air and some parallel compression. And on the mid and the bass layer, I used it to add some subharmonics and some parallel compression. So if we listen to it without any particles, it sounds like this. And if we bring them in, it sounds like this. A a bit fuller, a bit more, just everything sits a bit better in place. Not a big difference, but it adds something to the table. And then I used Sood 2 on the character layer, the mid layer, and the base layer. And I used them all in sidechain mode. So the idea here is to have the main layer to just sit in front of the other stuff and have the sidechain on those layers to just add some more space to the main layer and add some more space for each layer, more or less. So the character layer and the mid layer are sidechained against the main layer, and the base layer is sidechained against the mid layer. So if we just remove the Soods, it sounds like this. And if we bring them in, it sounds like this. Everything just has a little bit more space, a little bit less fighting between the layers. And then I added some compression to the bass here. Just tame the overall dynamics with 3 decibels, but no biggie. So if we listen to it without any mixing, it sounds like this. And with so a bit bigger and fuller sound with the mixing, but no big differences there. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and you got a lot of value out of it. Don't forget to download your free Wooshit cheat sheet, the link is in the description. Take care of each other and I see you in the next video.